4. That's Jeff Hoogland against number 15, Jacob Baugh. It's Jeskai Flash. It's white-red vehicles. And Patrick, unfortunately for you, there are no ghost steeds.
I'm glad. I already told Nick Miller, I usually don't break the fourth wall here like this, but I told Nick Miller I need at least a couple rounds off of the Ghoul Steed deck.
Okay.
Because I cannot trust myself to cover that match. If we have him back on. Top 8, we can talk about it then, but the rest of the Swiss rounds, let's call it. We can't show it again.
And we know what they'll be voting for.
Oh, yeah.
For the quarterfinals if Ryan Hovis makes the top 8. Great start here from Jacob Baugh. He has a Toolcraft Exemplar into a Smuggler's Copter. And now Jacob will draw. It's Plains. This is a Veteran Motorist. Let's see if this resolves. Scry 2 is good. We'll take a look at the Motorist for those of you who are unfamiliar with the 3-1 for a red and a white. And there's the Battlefield, you get to Scry 2. That's already pretty powerful. And then Veteran Motorist, whenever it cruises a vehicle, that vehicle gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Pretty nice little card.
Kind of an odd collection of powers.
Yeah.
But definitely price to move, as we like to say.
So the question now, it's kind of a little game of cat and mouse here. Will Jacob activate the Smuggler's Copter in the face of removal? Maybe yes, maybe no. And I think there is a question about if Jacob cruises with the Exemplar, or if he cruises here, does the +1/+1 happen immediately?
Does it just lock in?
Correct. Because against a deck that plays Harness Lightning, you get the 3 energy and then you deal 3 damage, but the Copter would be a 4/4.
I would imagine that it just has to happen on. It doesn't make sense that you would turn the vehicle on and then.
There's a trigger.
Yeah, there's some trigger from the. That doesn't make sense. So I imagine it just locks in as a 4/4.
Well, here is the Motorist crewing the Copter, and now Harness Lightning has to take care of the Exemplar. So there you go. The fact that it is a 4/4, difficult for Jeff. So now the Exemplar will bite the dust. Got to use 2 energy to take care of it. A bunch of damage will come across. And we're going to head back to Jeff here in just a moment. There we are. Glimmer of Genius, the draw. Jeff will play a Prairie Stream, enters the battlefield, taps, and he will pass the turn back. He is under the gun. His Ball will draw a card.
This is kind of the opening that I thought that Baugh needed to have a solid matchup here.
He's off to a great start.
Great start.
Jacob will play a PNLR. That will get countered very quickly there by Revolutionary Rebuff. Haven't seen anyone playing that this weekend besides Jeff. So if you're not familiar with that, it's not Mana Leak. It kind of might remind you of Miscalculation, but it's just kind of its own card. Counter target non-artifact spell, pretty important there, unless its controller pays 2.
Worse than Mana Leak, still probably good enough for Standard.
Yeah. It's certainly going to have its moments of missing, that's for sure.
People play with Shock all the time, even though it's worse than Lightning Bolt.
Yep. I'm sure this is doing some nice work for Jeff as he's going to untap and draw. Rattle Chains, the draw. There's a Wandering Fumarole. The thing about the Flash deck, and we saw this when Jeff played against Ryan Hovis, once he's actually able to get out ahead, he's doing pretty well. There's a Fleetwood Cruiser.
And Jeff's tricks have just not lined up the right way.
They have not.
I mean, this feels like a pretty juicy Spellcaller target.
Mm-hmm. Now, keep in mind, Jeff also has Rattle Chains and Stasis Snare in hand, but I think you just have to use all of your mana and Queller this.
Yep.
Feels that way, at least. So there's the Queller. Crew! The Copter. Who, me?
Yes, you.
Thank you. In for 4. Jacob will discard a Mountain. Let's head over to Jeff Hoogland now. Put that Fleetwood Cruiser underneath the Spell Queller. Make things a little bit easier.
Something that's a little awkward for Jeff's deck because he wants to play this flash game. A lot of his lands enter the battlefield tapped.
Mm-hmm. Might be thinking Selfless Spirit, but instead he's just going to pass the turn back. Jeff with Stasis Snare and Glimmer of Genius at the ready. Baugh going to play Declaration in Stone. Well, this is a good spot for Rattle Chains. So that will stop that. The unfortunate thing here for Jeff is he thought about playing Selfless Spirit, and if he had, I think he'd be in a pretty good spot because he would make a good block here.
Yep.
Unfortunately, now he doesn't really have the luxury to do that. I mean, I suppose a chump block could just happen with the Rattle Chains. I guess, actually, he can flash in the Selfless Spirit here. This actually makes for a pretty good turn.
Yep, this is still pretty solid. Yeah, very rare that the Rattle Chains synergy comes into play.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one actually. It's.
Right.
I don't think I've ever seen this happen and be beneficial, and it's actually very beneficial because here's the gang block.
Yep. And now he gets a trade.
Mm-hmm.
Selfless Spirit for the Copter.
Follow-up is, well, another Copter. Jeff will draw. Planes. Play that.
I mean, Jeff is low, but he's starting
he's
to pull
doing-
ahead.
Yep.
He's starting to pull ahead here.
I think he's doing all right. He even gets to do this, yep. He can start attacking. He does have to be a little wary of that Needle Spires. We cannot forget about that. Three mana pretty quick here from Jacob. There's to Paula. A lot of text on that one. Other dwarves you control get +1/+1. Each vehicle you control gets +1/+1 as long as it's a creature. Then when DePaula becomes tapped, either from crewing a vehicle or, who knows what, you can start to draw some cards. It's a heck of a card.
And remember, you can keep crewing even when something is turned on. So
the tricky part here is, all right, just got this Stasis Snare, right? That's looking pretty good. But which one are you supposed to kill? He's got to make sure he gets this right. He's at 5. The creatures that he has on the battlefield, they're not particularly good blockers.
yeah, they're not sized, and also Hoogland can't afford to have anything happen to the Spell Queller.
Mm-hmm.
He can barely manage the board as is if he also has to manage a Fleet Wheel Cruiser. That's probably asking too much.
DePaula will tap. Jacob will pay the 1. The top card was a mountain, so that's going to go to the bottom. It's not a dwarf or a vehicle. And now the Copter is on. It would like to attack, and Jeff's going to say no. Stasis near that, thank you. All right, cleared on tap. Motorist coming in. I think there's you're going to see a trade pretty fast here, I think.
He's not going to take the hit, and Rattle Changes isn't up too much else.
Yep.
But now, Baugh has 3-3 against 2-3.
Yep. Harness Lightning, pretty big draw. Fumigate and Glimmer of Genius. Those are the other cards. I think the turning point in this game, if we ever get there, is if Jeff actually gets to cast Glimmer of Genius.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing I'm kind of looking for the entire game is, will he ever get the opportunity to cast this thing?
Because it pulls him ahead, and it also probably signifies that he's gotten ahead by quite a bit.
Ooh, this is risky business. Well, he's going to gain life.
Sure.
That's the thing. So he goes to 7. The cruiser is back, and now Jacob has to have something to crew it with. And he has DePaula. Okay. Totally fine. Well, he's not dead. He goes down to 1. I mean, this is an uphill climb, no doubt about it. Yeah, here's a land. This is going to be really hard. This is manageable.
And he has a Wandering Fumarole down, I guess, too. It's really hard for him to beat a land that activates the Needle Spire or a creature that allows Baugh to attack with 2 things.
Yeah, that's going to make it real hard, too. Yeah. Jeff was obviously in a bad spot there. Like, I think that casting the Fumigate, he needs to hope that Jacob doesn't have a creature, or if he plays a land to activate the Needle Spires to turn on the cruiser, he goes to 2, but then he gets to untap and actually continue to play.
Right. It's just he's just drawing. There aren't a whole lot of cards off the top of Baugh's deck that don't either activate the Needle Spire or are a creature.
Totally agree. But it was going to be a pretty tough one. Yeah, it was going to be a pretty tough game to win. So Jacob Baugh does win game number 1 here over Jeff Hoogland. White-Red Vehicles up a game over Just Sky Flash. Jeff never got to cast that Glimmer of Genius as we take a look at the sideboards here. We will start with number 1 on our Player of the Year leaderboard. with 2 Blessed Alliance, 3 Ceremonious Rejection, 2 Fumigates, 2 Galvanic Bombardment, 2 Jace and Raveler Secrets, 2 Negates, and 2 Summary of Dismissal.
This is not offering a whole lot in the matchup. I think the Blessed Alliances and the Galvanic Bombardments are okay here. He could go to more copies of Fumigate, certainly, but Baugh is leaning so much on vehicles that I'm not sure if that's the route I would take. I don't know. It's tough because you could justify a lot of these cards. The Ceremonious Rejections, the Negates, the Galvanic Bombardments, they're good against portions of the deck, but he doesn't have any cards that are lights out here.
And the only thing I know I don't want is Fumigate.
Right.
I just don't think we saw it in that game. It's just not going to do very much. It's going to kind of put you in a bad spot.
Especially since Jeff is also playing to the table.
Yeah.
It's not like he's a blue-white control deck sitting on his heels the whole game. He is also casting a number of creatures.
For Jacob Baugh, 4 Gideon Allies, Zendikar, 3 Weaver of Lightning, 3 Galvanic Bombardment, 3 Sky Whaler Shot, and 2 Fragmentize.
The 4 Gideons, I think, are a no-brainer here. Just great in this kind of matchup. Playing against sweepers and a deck that doesn't brawl quite as well as you do. I think there's an argument for the 3 copies of Galvanic Bombardment, and I would probably prefer those to Declaration in Stone. I think Sorcery Speed removal is just very troubled against a deck like Jeff, so I would want to be playing as much instant speed removal as possible.
Well, those are the options there for both players. Jacob Baugh currently up a game, so Jeff will be on the play here for game number 2. We'll talk about the StarCityGames.com game night promotion for right now. Now, we have Hedgehog-a-Hog on our lapels here this weekend. Very popular little critter there. But we got some other cool stuff coming down the old pipeline, as you like to say.
Yeah, and head over to go.starcitygames.com/game night. Find out more information about game night. Every month, we produce new kits with pins and tokens we send to the stores that are signed up for game night. Stores can then run game night any way they want to, any day of the week, any format. Just get players in the store on a regular basis for some fun and friendly magic. It is now October the 2nd. Happy birthday, Mom. Be calling you in a little bit.
Hey, hello.
Yep. Mama Sullivan.
It's a shout out right there.
Big birthday.
Totally respect it.
Playing for this pin and these tokens here in October. We got the rest of the year rolled out here. In November, we got Mole Warden. And then in December, announced for the first time during this broadcast, Fin Tuition. You get it. Go.starcitygames.com/game night for more information and find the game night closest to you. Stores, if you want to get signed up for game night, contact your Star City Games in-store play representative.
Jeff Hoogland, number 1 on the SCG Tour leaderboard. We'll learn a little bit more about him, even though he is down a game right now. 9-1 here. Can't remember the last time Jeff really had a bad weekend here on the SCG Tour. Between good main event runs, winning classics, all that good stuff. We know he loves Modern, but he's doing pretty well in Standard with 15 open top 8s overall, 1 invitational top 8 as well for the stay-at-home dad, who lives in Bloomington, Illinois, not Bloomington, Indiana. That'd be too close to here, but it's actually not that far of a drive for Jeff, so this is a pretty convenient location for him. Another great start to another tournament, and as usual, kind of doing things his way, and I'm a fan of this deck, actually.
So
I like what's going on.
He played a lot of blue-white flash in the previous format, and I think because of the Gear Hulk, he just wants one more good instant that can interact early on in the game, especially with the format being perceived to be pretty fast, and Harness Lightning fits the bill.
I can totally see that.
The mana makes me cringe sometimes. Not because the mana is inconsistent, but so many of his lands enter the battlefield tapped.
Yeah, that's the scary part. Even the fast lands will enter tapped.
And playing a flash game and being behind a half beat because of your lands is a tough spot to be in. So the red cards have to be excellent to justify the number of lands now that enter the battlefield tapped as a result.
Well, I guess that's the question, right? Is how good do we think Harness Lightning is? Jeff obviously believes it's pretty gosh darn good.
Yep.
I don't think I can really argue otherwise. I mean, it's looked pretty good all weekend long. Is it worth the splash? Along with, not much other red. He's got creature lands. That's really it.
I will say that I definitely underestimated the card. I mean, I saw it's just, okay, this is 2 deal 3 to a creature, and there's maybe some funkiness going on if you're playing an energy-focused deck. But in reality, just with Aether Hub alone, it's already going up to 4 a good percentage of the time. The fact that you're occasionally killing something that's 1 or 2 toughness and then having energy left over for future copies, the card's much more powerful than I initially anticipated.
Inspiring Vantage and Port Town is where Jeff will start things off. For Jacob, he started off with the Needle Spires. We'll see where he goes next. You can see Jeff's hand right now. He's got some lands that are going to enter the battlefield tapped, as you've mentioned. There is the Veteran Motorist. That's in there. And Jeff is sitting here with a negate, really hoping it's going to do something.
There's a lot of cards in Jeff's sideboard, as we mentioned, that line up against some of Baugh's cards in a very good way and do not line up against the others very well. And negate qualifies.
Jacob will pass. Mountain the draw here for Jeff. pretty good one. He'll play that with the ability to cast a Spell Queller now. There's Inspiring Advantage for Baugh. He'll attack for 3. Okay. Jeff would like to make a trade here, if at all possible.
Oops. Surprised at letting, feels like letting Baugh off the hook pretty easy there. Especially with Hoogland able to continue to make land drops and having other spells in his hand.
There's Weaver of Lightning. Galvanic Bombardment, the draw here. A little surprised to see the Weaver. There's Aether Hub. I suppose this does do pretty good work against spirits like Selfless Spirit and Rattle Chains.
The thing is, I would expect Hoogland to be cutting a lot of those cards anyway and converting into a bigger deck. This card is very powerful against dedicated spirits decks, but I just imagine Jeff is in a different place games 2 and 3.
There's Selfless Spirit from Jacob. Here's an attack for 1. Jeff's going to fall down to 19. Oh, he got to cast 1.
Oh!
The Glimmer of Genius. He'll get to scry 2. Draw 2. And then gets 2 energy as well. Both those cards will go to the bottom. 2 cards on the way here for Jeff.
That's got to feel really satisfying.
Hey, it's funny because, you know, we're making kind of light of it, but I think it's so important for his deck to be able to bridge the gap in that way.
Oh, definitely. No doubt about it.
And it's so hard to get the time to cast that against a deck like Jacob's. Here's an attack for 3. Jeff will fall down to 16. Pass the turn back.
Oh,
all right,
twice as nice.
All right, this game is over. Both cards will go to the bottom again. Harness Lightning and Stasis Snare. And the other thing too, I think Jacob has a few more creatures in hand. His hand is somewhat reactive, but I think he's got a few more creatures in hand. I just don't think he wants to kind of extend into Fumigate.
Right.
Which is playing directly into how Jeff wants to play the game.
Exactly. And I mean, at some point, he's got to push a little bit harder than this now with Jeff having drawn 4 extra cards and scribed some stuff to the bottom, sitting on a lot of mana. You know he's playing a ton of spot removal too.
Because 3 a turn ain't it. And now it's 1 a turn. Might see Stasis Snare. Going to see Harness Lightning here. Just got 5 energy. This will bring him up to 8 and then down to 4. So there goes the Weaver. Three mana. There's T'Pala. Jeff's got a Stasis Snare for that. There is an Inspiring Vantage, and past that turn back, we'll head back over to Jeff Hoogland, who's now drawn a Rattle Chains. Prairie Stream's the land. We'll see Jeff just going to pass the turn back. I mean, you're going to see this a high percentage of the time. It's just going to be land, go.
Sit, wait, react.
Yep. And the thing that he is truthfully waiting for is Archangel Avacyn. We know that's the biggest payoff. That and the Blue Gearhawk, of course.
Either plays. Or just to run Baugh out and be able to flip and start attacking with creature lands.
T'Pala down. Stasis Snare takes care of that. All right, Jacob, you gotta cast something else now. Okay, just gonna go to Needle Spires. Jeff, it's totally fine, but Stasis Snare that too.
Yep.
Stasis Snare does not say non-land, so you can't actually take care of that. I guess we'll take a look at Stasis Snare just to make sure everyone knows how that one works. Exile target creature an opponent controls until Stasis Snare leaves the battlefield. Jeff is gonna play a Selfless Spirit now.
Finally ready to go beatdowns.
Bombardment, Rattle Chains. Last card in hand is Negate. This is a Galvanic Bombardment again. And that Selfless Spirit is down. Harness Lightning, so Jacob's hand was very reactive. Yep, let that go too. Jeff will untap. He will draw. It's an island.
So Jeff a little bit ahead here. More mana, certainly. A creature land, and then a gate in hand. But by no means a lock to win this one.
It's funny. Players have styles. And you know, like the way we've seen Brad build his deck this weekend, not really much of a surprise given what we've seen over the past handful of years. It's like an aggressive-ish green-white deck that can transform into a mid-range or control deck. I think Jeff is starting to develop into this style of I like to, you know, play a little bit of a flash game, but I like to have a lot of creature lands in my deck.
Yep.
For reasons just like this. Like the trade-off of having your lands on the battlefield tapped a high percentage of the time kind of stinks, but his spirits died and he actually has things he can do now.
It also lets him flip into more of a control deck if he wants to. He has the luxury of cutting a bunch of creatures because he still has enough win conditions left in the deck.
Mm-hmm. There's Thraven Inspector. That's going to resolve. Clue on the way. Jacob will draw. Picked up another Needle Spires. He'll play that. Pass the turn back. Spell Queller's a pretty nice one there for Jeff. This might make this a little bit easier now.
Yeah, big insurance policy here. The only thing in Baugh's deck that costs more than 4, I believe, is Sky Sovereign, which doesn't amount to much right now.
The big boat not looking real good on this particular battlefield.
That has been a recurring theme also over the course of the weekend, though we haven't seen it all that many times. But there have not been a lot of shining moments for Sky Sovereign.
Yeah.
And a lot of whatever the opposite of shining moments are. We've had a lot of those.
We have.
Relatively speaking.
I don't know what the opposite of a shining moment is.
Yeah.
But I know what you mean.
We have seen it.
Yeah.
You know it when you see it.
Yes. Jeff, I think, is going to fire up again here. Yep. Beatdowns. Jacob says, I have a little something for you. No, you don't. Look at Needle Spires looking to just go the distance and
So
deal all 20.
The shields are down now. There's an opportunity here for Baugh to resolve something big.
Oh, look, he drew the boat. Are we sure this is? Are we sure this isn't post-edit?
Yeah, this is
Are we sure?
post-edit.
Oh, look, a boat.
It doesn't do anything, and also I don't have enough power to crew it.
Unbelievable.
Okay, well, now Hoogland can't attack with a Needle Spire. Please tell me that was the second Sky Sovereign.
I think it may have been a second boat. Boat strategy. Ooh, we got a reader. Now, he does have enough to crew it now with Selfless Spirit and Thraven Inspector. So many boats.
Although this does take some of the wind out of the sails of the Spell Queller in Hoogland's hand.
Is that a boat joke?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it was.
Draw. Harness Lightning. Jeff will play a land. I mean, Jacob's got to be very careful here.
Yeah, I mean, he's at 4,
Yeah.
facing Needle Spire. He could die pretty easily.
Yeah, if he goes crewing the boat to start getting some damage here, he could just die in the crackback. Looks like Jeff is going to make a move with the Spires. Going to crew here. I don't know if this works out well for Jeff.
I don't think it does.
Because if he Harness Lightnings this, Jacob can just make it indestructible.
Yeah, this is not a good look.
Yeah.
Although I guess if you get the Selfless Spirit off the battlefield, then Baugh can't currently crew the Sky Sovereign, and you have a Spell Queller in your hand.
Yeah.
So maybe you can manage it that way.
This is interesting.
Okay.
So to me, this feels like Jeff made a mistake, which obviously isn't great, but he can play back from this.
Yep.
You know, I think he realized the mistake he made as he made it. Ooh, Weaver, yikes.
Yeah, that's a great blocker here and something that makes other things problematic in terms of Jeff's lines. But yeah, now the Spell Queller doesn't even work because of the Sky Sovereign. Unless Jeff is willing to kill, he can kill the Selfless Spirit in response with Harness by Lightning and then Spell Queller this.
Which I think he might kind of have to do. I mean, he's in a tough spot right now.
Right.
And if Jacob has anything with that 2 mana, he's in some trouble. Now, Weaver's still on the stack to be Spell Quellered.
Yeah, I think Jeff just needed to Harness Lightning the Selfless Spirit as the first order of business last turn and just see what happened. From there, his Spell Queller's back on.
All right, boat you. All right, go after the boat. Okay, boat down. Untap, draw, stasis snare.
I mean, Stasis Snare is really good here, as it's you know, if Baugh is just attacking, assuming that Jeff's on empty, then this next turn gets really rough.
Boat you again. Pass, draw, wandering fumarole.
Nice for Jeff as that replaces a lethal threat.
Yep. 3 mana. Oof.
The thing is, Baugh doesn't have to make a move. Like he can just sit back on the Sky Sovereign and attack with other stuff if he wants to.
Yep. All right, boat. Snared. So many spell snares for Jeff this game. Draw. I'm sure Jeff is thinking, am I ever going to draw Archangel Avacyn? Ever? Draw a card. Plains for Jacob.
I don't know. He's drawn plenty of other stuff. He's
He
got
has.
a lot of tools to work with this game.
Yeah. It feels like Avacyn makes it, I don't want to say really easy, but easier. Jeff going to take 2. Mountain go. Draw. Okay. Blessed Alliance. All right.
Sure.
Needle Spires to draw here for Jacob. Attack. Pretty good time, I think, with Escalate. Yeah. Gain 4. Make him sacrifice the Selfless Spirit.
Active player finishes his turn and play 5 additional cards if necessary. If you have a time extension, raise your hand and call a judge. Once again, that's time in a round.
All right, pass. Draw. Plains. Pass. Interesting game developing here now. Jacob isn't like... So he can't attack with the ground creatures because of the creature lands Jeff has?
Mm-hmm.
But like the question is, how much do I want to extend into playing more things because of the fact I saw Fumigate in game 1?
Yep.
So he's in like a really, really weird spot right now. Jeff is going to activate Wandering Fumarole to try to block the Needle Spires. They'll trade. Anna Jacob has at least 1 declaration, so now he's going to play a Smuggler's Copter. Spell Queller's going to take care of that. All right. We will head back over to Jeff. He'll draw Selfless Spirit. A little protection for the Spell Queller. But Weaver of Lightning does a great job of picking off those.
Yeah, in the long term, those small flyers that Jeff's drawing are going to be pretty poor for him.
Yep. Weaver of Lightning triggers will go at Selfless Spirit. Declaration of Stone's going to go after the Spell Queller. Both these things will happen. Copter will go back over to Jacob. Jeff will have a clue, which means he's got some redraws. All right, so now, okay, Selfless Spirit on the stack. Or excuse me, Smuggler's Copter on the stack. Now it's good. Harness Lightning to draw off the clue. Inspector. He comes in for 1. Checking Jeff's mana. Looks like no more creature lands. He'll just play a Plains and pass. Another copy of Blessed Alliance to draw. Jacob will draw. Get to the chopper. Yeah, Harness Lightning will take care of that. Follow-up. Inspector. Clue on the way. Jacob will crack the clue right away. Draw a card. These white-red decks, especially the one that Jacob Baugh and Team Card Hoarder are playing, there's some staying power here.
Yep. Well, you have Smuggler's Copter to filter your draw. You have a little bit of the clue action, and you're just a little bit on the bigger side.
There she is. There she's not. With Weaver triggers. Yep, dead.
This has been a bizarre game.
It has been. It really has been. And somehow Jeff's life total is only 14. Wandering Fumarole. Pass.
Attention open players.
Baugh will
If
draw.
you
All right, he's got
received
all
a
lands
tax
in
alert
hand now.
this
He's going to
morning
attack for
and are
2.
done with your match, please come
Jeff will
see
fall down
us
to
at
12.
customer service at the stage so we can get that taken care of.
Jeff will
Once again,
draw.
open players, if you
Aether Hub,
finished your match
pass.
and got a tax slip today,
The card in hand
please
for
come
Jeff right
see
now
us
is
at the
Blessed
stage.
Alliance. I think Jacob drew another land. Yeah, I think he's got 5 in hand. He'll play one of them. No Needle Spires among his lands on the battlefield. And now will he attack with any of his lands? Or any of his creatures, excuse me.
I feel like it's still worth something. Yeah, just attacking with the 3-bit inspectors feel totally safe. You know, who cares?
All right, Blessed Alliance. With Escalate. So Jacob will have to sacrifice a creature. Jeff will gain 4 life. I'm not Wandering Fumarole is going to go in front of the Inspector. Okay, Jeff's at 16. Draw. Hub, energy, pass.
I think Baugh on Declaration of Stone plus lands in hand.
Uh-oh. The Glimmer. I think that's what he drew. Oh, actually, never mind. Way worse. Revolutionary Rebuff.
Is that the Mana Leak?
Yeah, way worse. Prairie Stream, pass. Ugh. I think that may have been a Gideon.
Yeah, that'll do her.
That's a real Magic card finally. All right.
And Baugh with the 2 left over to pay 3 times over.
I was gonna say he's got plenty.
Should he be feeling so inclined?
Yeah, he's got plenty to pay. Gideon will change the dynamic. Jeff has got to find Archangel Avacyn. He's got to find it.
And even then, it's not really going to do a whole lot against the board that Baugh has with Declaration of Stone in hand left over.
I suppose Torrential Gearhulk is also a good draw, assuming it's still in his deck. And of course, Glimmer of Genius is great for the redraws. Gideon is up. Here we go. Activate the Fumarole. Do some blocking here. Gonna block the Knight Ally.
I'm not sure about blocking the Knight versus the 3-bit Inspector because it means any spell from Baugh then finishes off the Fumarole.
See if he has a spell though.
I suppose most spells are creature removal spells.
Yeah, so they would
whatever.
die anyway.
So whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
Plains, pass, draw. Spell Queller's late. Sacrifice Evolving Wilds. Oh, Jeff doesn't have a lot of cards left in his deck. He's out of basics. Not a lot of cards left in his deck, that's for sure. Kind of an orthodox sideboarding plan here from Jacob, but it's kind of working. Weaver Lightning is being a real pain.
Yep.
Inspector again. There's Spell Queller. That'll take care of that. We'll see if we'll see Deckenstone here in a minute.
He can still just keep dialing up the Gideon if he's feeling so inclined.
Mm-hmm. Dial it up, he will.
I suppose you want to attack with Gideon and something else because of Blessed Alliance.
Got to play around it.
Yeah. I mean, Jeff's played several copies, but still no reason to get greedy here.
Yep. That's kind of a small wrinkle in the format now, I think. I think that's a card that needs to be on a lot more people's radar.
Yeah, just throw your 3-bit Inspectors into more random attacks.
Yep. Jeff down to 4. Follow-up. Deckenstone. Along with 2 Weaver triggers. Both creatures down. Jeff will get a clue. Inspector will come in. Baugh will sacrifice the clue he gets. Pass. Jeff will sack a clue. Draw a card. Time to untap. And draw. He has lands, Revolutionary Rebuff, and that is not going to do it. Jacob Baugh going to win this match here over Jeff Hoogland. 2-0. White-red vehicles. Vroom vrooms all over Just Guy Flash for Jacob Baugh. He's 10-1.
Bit of a sloppy game. Not from anything that was going on necessarily on the other side of the table, but just a little awkward, uneven. I thought that once Jeff kind of started pulling ahead with his card drawing spells, that he would eventually find just more powerful stuff to overwhelm Jacob, but